Welcome to Losing a Child, Always Andy's Mom. On this podcast, we journey through the devastating experience of the death of a child. Grief is seldom discussed openly in our culture, and the death of a child makes people feel even more uncomfortable. We approach the topic openly and honestly, speaking to people who have lost loved ones and experts who help care for them. Whether you are a parent experiencing loss or someone who wants to support another going through this tragedy, this podcast strives to offer hope and help.
Welcome to episode number 329 of Losing a Child, Always Andy's Mom. I'm Marcy Larson, Andy's mom. I don't know. I think this is the first time that I have had a podcast release on January 1st. So Happy New Year to everyone. Although I know for grieving people, New Year does not always feel happy. It oftentimes does not feel happy for me because it's yet another year that I'm starting without Andy. But I do think that it's fitting to start this year with today's guest, Renee. Renee gave me a lot to think about, and I've got a new kind of concept that I'm really excited to share with you. And I'm not going to spoil it now, so I want you to listen all the way through. But it just as my excruciatingly beautiful phrase has become a part of me and a part of who I am and what I think about grief, this is another kind of cool concept that I know will change how I forever think about grief and the grief journey. So thank you, Renee, for that. Also, I want to thank Renee for being a sponsor. So Renee donated $125 to sponsor her episode about Patrick, and I really appreciate that. I have not had as many sponsorships as of late. I had one in December, and now I'm starting January with one, so hopefully we'll have some more. I'm recording this quite a bit ahead, though, so others may have come in the meantime that I just have not been able to talk about yet. So if you have given a donation recently and think, gosh, did she really get it? I did, I'm sure, but I'm just recording this quite a bit ahead now. I also really hope that you have enjoyed the videos that we've had going on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube this past week. Hopefully that's going to go well. Again, I'm recording this even 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, and we're releasing it on January 1st. So who knows how things are going to be going, but I am excited about it, and I hope that it all went well. And I hope that you tuned into the live stream last week and know that we'll have another one coming up. I don't know what it's going to be about, but if you've got ideas, you can feel free to email me. And if you want to share your story on the podcast, email me as well. So email me at marcy@andysmom.com. You can do that if you want to share a story just with me or on the podcast. And again, go to the website, andysmom.com, and click on the donate page if you would like to sponsor an episode in memory of your child or another child, maybe for the new year or for an anniversary or a birthday or for whatever reason. I appreciate all of them so much. Right now, though, I just want you to sit back and listen to Renee, Patrick's mom. Thank you so much, Renee, for coming on the Always Andy's Mom podcast today.
Oh, thanks for having me, Marcy.
Oh, I am sad that we have to get together under these circumstances, of course, but still so happy to meet with you. I've seen cool pictures of Patrick already, and I know a little bit about Patrick, but I just can't wait to hear more and let you talk about him even more.
Yes, I appreciate the opportunity to say his name and to talk about him and to have him remembered. And,
right. Because it just happens less and less over time, right?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Because it's been now 4 years, 4.5 probably about since Patrick died. And once you get to that point, it just seems like you just have fewer and fewer opportunities to talk about our kids, don't we?
I know. I make them. Luckily, he has a little niece that's been born since he died, and she has his name in the middle. So she's Neve Patrick. So I call her Neve Patrick, and I talk to her about Patrick all the time.
Oh, that's beautiful. I
Yes.
love that.
Oh, and I'm at her house right now. So if you hear something in the background, she's upstairs with her pup and her mom and dad.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It's funny because I was thinking that just got me thinking because my son Valeriano is having a baby here in just about
Mm,
4 weeks,
mm.
and I just thought that is going to be a great little opportunity to talk to her about her Uncle Andy, right?
Absolutely. It is right. And that new energy and that, I always talk to Patrick before she was born to be with her and let her arrival be safe and her to be well. And so that was a real reassurance to me. And I'm just looking through Pat's baby book and some of the things she's doing now at 18 months. Her favorite word is outside. And I have it in Pat's baby book at 18 months. He loved to say outside and loved to go there. So,
Oh, those are sweet little
yeah,
things.
it's incredible the healing that has occurred for my husband and myself in the last 18 months to have a new
Yeah.
member of the family after we
Hmm.
were so completely shattered with the
Yeah.
sudden death of Patrick. Yeah,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
fate has done a world of good,
Hmm.
really miraculous amount of energy and hope
Yeah.
and, filling this heart space that just felt so empty
Yeah.
and just so destroyed.
Hmm.
And so you could feel our hearts coming back online.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So I'm happy for you, Marcy. That's just
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, why don't you start out by just telling us all about your son, Patrick?
Okay. My pleasure. We have a daughter, Melissa, and then 4 years later, Patrick came. And then 5 years after that, our son, Andrew, came. So,
Wow. That's quite the age gap.
yes, so we had three. My husband and I are both one of six kids born in 8 years.
Oh,
So,
okay. All right.
special for us to be on this extended plan, three kids in 9 years. Really incredible. Their friendship, I guess it cut down on the sibling rivalry because they each had this amount of time that
Yeah.
they were, and our daughter Melissa was the firstborn. So then she was so delighted when Patrick was born. And his birth story, it was so incredible. He was due on November 12th. He was 10 days late. He came on November 22nd, and it was the stormiest evening. I had a checkup because I was so overdue in the morning. And then we headed for the birth center at 8 o'clock. I guess we left home maybe at 7:30 in the driving rain, like a little bit scary if we could make it there, that kind of rain you can't see in. And we pull up to the birth center, and the midwife has the side door open where we parked. And it was like the most welcoming feeling after we made it through the storm with the contractions pretty intense.
Yeah.
So we get it at 8 o'clock. They allowed me to labor in like the birthing bath, a hot tub. I got in there at 8 o'clock and I got out at 10, and he was born at 10:07.
Oh, my.
It was like an absolute dreamboat because, of course, my firstborn was the more protracted firstborn labor that
Sure.
is not fun to tell the story of. But for Patrick, it was like unbelievable. So I just had this beautiful little baby boy, 8 pounds, 6 ounces. And the first picture we have of him, I guess we have them of me, having him on my chest. But when he was getting weighed and measured, he had like his leg up and he looked like a little Iron Man, like his muscle in his leg. And he was just so peaceful and serene. He just didn't cry. And then that was 10:07 at night. So I guess we just got to go home in the morning. It was, obviously it was like Thanksgiving in a couple days. I had my father's antique crib that we used for my daughter, but it wasn't safe to put Patrick in there because my daughter could scoop him up. So we had to get rid of that antique crib so fast because Patrick wasn't safe with this loving arms of his 4-year-old sister who thought she would be the best one to care for him.
Of course she did. Of course she did.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. I had this story when she was going to nursery school then. So I would load Patrick up in his car seat, and we would drive her to nursery school. And I don't know what happened, but like after we dropped her off and we came back home, I like tweaked my back and I had the car seat in my hand. So I just like sat down on the floor and he's still buckled in and he just looks at me and he just smiles. I'm like scared to death. Like, what's going to happen with my back? And I don't know how I'm going to be able to get him back in the car to pick her up in 2 hours. And he's just smiling away, not a care in the world. It resolved itself, but it was like, if he was a fussy baby or like intent on having to be taken out right away, I couldn't do it.
Right.
That was his temperament. I mean, he was just mild mannered. His sister, I guess the next year when she would go to school, she would come home and she would go downstairs with Patrick and he would be like her pupil. She would be repeat what she heard from her teacher to him. Now I said, sit down. Patrick would say, his bossy big sister, and just go along with her. She had a little mermaid tail that she would put on his legs. She would put his hair in a little sprout on top of his head and a little pink skirt. And he would do anything to be hanging out with his sister, Melissa.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that.
I know.
So cute.
He's instantly obsessed with tools. So
Okay.
his name was Tool Man. So for his birthday, his father made him a hammer cake, just a cake shaped to look like a hammer. And he got tool sets, plastic and official looking. One with my sister Paula got him one with a saw that, we couldn't give him for years. It was a real sharp saw. One time somebody came over and they rang the doorbell, and in front of the door was Patrick had left the plumber's wrench that was my grandfather's, and I could not get the door open because this enormous red plumber's wrench was jammed there. That was his idea of like the best toy, the real thing.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think, I guess his second birthday was a train cake. And then his third birthday, Marcy, is like really brutal to talk about because we had this fabulous party for him and he had these little lederhosen on, these little shorts with the little suspenders.
Yes.
He was just so delighted to be the life of the party. He got a little child's kind of guitar that he was strumming and entertaining. He was doing like an Irish dance version with his lederhosen of just dancing around with his grandparents, his aunts and uncles. And he got one of those horses that's on a stick that you...
Sure.
So he's, even though it's November, he's galloping all around the front yard with this horse. So we had his party on the weekend, and that his actual birthday, I was at the Mommy and Me class that we had at our nursery school. And when I got back, my husband was home, and my 27-year-old sister died in a car accident that morning on his birthday.
Oh, my.
Yeah. So that was my first deep immersion into, I'm third of six, and she was six of six, my total soulmate sister.
Yeah.
And yeah, my husband was home. Since we didn't answer the home phone, they called, family called my husband at work. So he came home to wait for me to get home from Mommy and Me. And so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see why that's a devastating thing to talk about. It goes from such joy and what a great fun day, and then to just this devastation. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's going to be 31 years on Pat's 34th birthday on November 22nd. So.
Wow.
Yeah. She was an aunt, but wasn't a mother yet. And she was with us for the weekend. She babysat the kids on Saturday night. And I guess we had his party on Sunday. And then she left Sunday night and just driving to work on Tuesday morning, a real unexplained car accident, really kind of like a one car accident and then it was Thanksgiving in 2 days. So, you wonder about the autopsy, really didn't get to the bottom of it.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
My kids really saved my life then because
Yeah.
their needs are so immediate.
Yeah.
She kind of felt like my daughter and just my sister Paula. So my life was divided into,
Yeah.
2 parts then, before she died and after. But it was like a trial run for Patrick.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's what I was just thinking. Mm-hmm.
unbelievable that, it felt so random.
Yeah.
She was the baby of the family. So she had the zest for life
Yeah.
that was just contagious, that you're just happy when you're around her. So it's felt, just brave to keep going, but having the kids really helped. And then 2 years after she died, I had my son Andrew.
Uh-huh.
Turned 29, and Patrick, stepped in the best way of being the big brother. We got Patrick a karate outfit when we brought Andrew home from the birth center. And so he's dressed up in this little karate outfit. And I think he was initially disappointed that this baby really didn't do much
Yeah.
of like, that's my brother. But boy, it didn't take long. Patrick was just the ideal big brother where, he loved to read. So he, just whatever he was doing, Andrew was in this little baby seat next to him, just watching closely. And they were absolute best of friends, despite the age gap.
Yeah.
In fact, when Andrew was applying to college, Pat was an engineer. So Andrew chose engineering. And then once he got all his acceptances, Andrew came to his senses and said, I don't want to be an engineer. And he had a switch with the college that admitted him, and he changed to computer science. But it was like he just did what Pat did because it just worked
Yeah.
so well. And they
Uh-huh.
were on so many adventures together. So
That's what I felt was like with my boys. Peter just did stuff because Andy did it. And he always just followed in his big brother's footsteps. And it was so hard, I think, for him after Andy died to try to like find his own way. He wasn't used to finding his own way.
no.
No, he really wasn't.
Patrick and Andrew were older than it with your Andy,
Yeah.
my what's his name, and Andrew. Yeah, my Andrew is super private with his grief. He's married, thank God, to the most amazing, supportive wife who knew and loved Patrick so much. So they have each other. I had the experience as the sibling, and now I have the experience as the mother
Yeah.
with the grief. And that is so hard for me, knowing how it was for me. I remember
Yeah.
talking to them 10 years after Paula died, and they thought it had been that week. Was how I carried it, was so devastated that they really thought she had just died. And I was like, no, it was 10 years ago. And I really said to myself when Patrick died, there's no way I could be in resistance to it the way that I was with Paula, of just, I don't know if it was fighting against it, but just not wanting it to be so.
Yeah.
I'm 30 years older now. And I said, and I didn't have the delight of, the kids at home to care for and to feed, that I said, I have to be more gentle with myself and be more accepting of this brutal reality because I just don't have the strength.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to actually face the grief. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was really funny. This reminds me a lot of, in some ways, me losing my mother because, I lost my mother when I was 21. And I recently went to a retreat at Luella's Lodge, and they had a writing exercise. And I really was thinking about that because they had you write a letter to yourself at the end. I thought, wow, my life is divided very distinctly into 3 parts. I had the Marcy before my mom died. I had the Marcy after my mom died and before Andy died. And then I have the Marcy after Andy died. And it feels like they're 3 different people.
Yeah.
And I think that's why. And then I wrote this, that I'm terrified that someday there'll be a 4th me, because I don't want there to be a 4th me.
Mm.
because they do just feel so different. And I feel like as I'm listening to you talk, you talked about how you became just, life just got divided into the time after Paula died. And I thought, oh, and then there's another break, right? When Patrick died, that's another completely separate person that you are now. It's just,
Absolutely.
it's so hard.
At this stage for me is, I mean, the thing that can infuriate you about that there can be transformation in this kind of suffering. I actually feel now some of my healthier boundaries I see as a result of, like I say, thanks to Patrick, where things that I would muscle through before or just endure, that I say, no, I don't do
Yeah.
it, that
Yeah.
I protect myself more. And I see that as a result of the shattering, of
Yeah.
just the absolute devastation. There's no words, right? There's just no words for it, but it's like, and I could almost hear Pat's voice of like, take care of yourself, mom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Be good to yourself. He was that interesting kid who he was he was a friendly to himself from the start. He cut himself slack. My firstborn was like so conscientious and dutiful with her homework. And Pat, it was such a different deal. When he would get home from school, he would play. And he did very, very well in school. But what I watched my firstborn do, she's up in her room chained to the desk, so conscientious. Pat could get it done, but he had balance. He was having a good time too. He, took breaks. I really marvel at it. I marveled at it at the time, and I still do, that being a really good ally. It's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you said to me even before we started recording of what a calm kind of presence he had, right? Because I told you I was feeling discombobulated as we were coming on this interview because I had kind of a chaotic morning, and you said, "Well, if Patrick's around here, maybe we will help feel that calmness a little bit." Kind of me grasping at my inner Patrick a little and trying to
Sure.
have this calm sense.
Yes.
So I love that.
Yeah, I know. And in some ways, I'm remembering when I took my youngest back to the birth center for like that 6-week checkup. I guess it was really of me, but I had Patrick and Andrew with me. And in that fatigue of having a 6-week-old in the house, I didn't even have an appointment. Like, I was there on the wrong day. I woke the baby. I dragged Patrick there. When I got out of there, I forget if they squeezed me in or not, but I was like, kind of like shaky from hunger. And so I went through the drive-through McDonald's, and Pat's in the back seat strapped in. I said, he didn't want anything from McDonald's. Like, what 5-year-old? His mother is having whatever, a hamburger. And Patrick, he didn't want the fast food. It was like,
Yeah.
who's the old soul in the car, and who's the mother eating her French fries and a milkshake? But yeah, that he was this kind of unflappable kid, that he was calm in the storm. And so he ended up being sort of the guide of our family. The week he died, we were all meeting in Taos, New Mexico, in a vacation that he planned from start to finish. And, you know, we didn't get to go, right? We had his funeral instead, but he would book the house, book the flights. He would do the itinerary he did a great one for us in Seattle, Washington, and Mount Rainier with the San Juan Islands. And it was so wonderful for the family because he would do the hours of research of where to go and what to do. And he was my tech support that would be inside my computer, so he could be in another state and bailing his mother out of whatever challenge I had on the computer. So yeah, he just felt like he was naturally good at so many things, but his real love in life for sure was outside,
Yeah.
playing soccer, snowboarding, skinboarding at the beach in the ocean, surfing. He was happiest when he could get outside, rollerblading, riding his bike. He loved to go to the library. Yeah. His sister has her screensaver as Pat leaving the library with the stack of books. That's like, 10 high. That's a little tough to do in the 3 weeks that you can have the books. But it was kind of like he was always in a self-study. He went to college and graduated in engineering science.
Uh-huh.
He worked as a consultant in engineering for like 3 years, but he had to really fly every week. He was in a different place, and he had an apartment in Philadelphia, and he would get some groceries, I guess, when he got back. But then, he would leave on Sunday or Monday morning. So he couldn't really build a community where he was living because he was always in a hotel. So after 3 years, he stopped that and went and just took the plunge to move from Pennsylvania to Colorado. And he did so much research on all the different towns, and he wanted a walkable one. So he went without a car into the town where they have the gondola to the top of the mountain. And he was the happiest that he ever was in the mountains, where you're outside hiking, snowboarding. I don't know what else, just living his dream in the mountains, and met the love of his life.
Really?
Ended up getting hired at the Pinhead Institute, which is a part of the Smithsonian, and it's a science education program. And he had all these young kids that he could share his love of science. And I have a great picture of him in the field. They all built rockets and releasing, sending the rockets up into the air. So all the things that he loved as a kid, connects, putting things together. He got to share that love with the next generation.
Oh, that's awesome. What a great guy you have. Yeah.
I know. I know.
And not only though did he travel for work, but he loved just traveling around for pleasure too, I think, because you sent me some pictures that were
Yes.
from some cool places too, right?
Oh my God. Well, when his younger brother was traveling, was studied abroad in Denmark. So his sister and brother met him over there
Uh-huh.
when school ended. And it's the funniest story of like a total Pat moment. Was they got off one train. I forget, they were going somewhere else in Europe after Andrew was done school and his exams, and he was so tired. They got up 2 levels in the train station, and Andrew said, I forgot my backpack with my computer in it. And in the bolt of lightning, Patrick went down before that train left and got Andrew's backpack with his computer. And that's how fast, like lightning fast, Patrick just. But they went on to go through, and Andrew's girlfriend was with them, and they just had the most spectacular trip through Europe. And then we had a family wedding in India, and Walt and I could not go because our niece was getting married in Key West. So our 3 kids came to Key West, went to that wedding, and then flew to India for the other wedding. And then Patrick's girlfriend met him over there, and they went to Nepal and hiked. So
Wow.
they,
Wow.
yeah, that picture, the one picture is them at a summit of, living the dream of the simplicity and the beautiful, mountains, the sky, the people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. And he bought this van that he was so proud of, that he converted the inside where they could take it camping in Colorado. And I forget what it's called when you don't have to have a campsite. There's just like free camping where you almost like pull over to the side of the road. And I have a great picture of him just like set up the stove, and he set up a thing like a solar shower. So you didn't need any facilities, and they would find natural hot springs. And he and his partner, Marissa, she could match him step for step of every activity he loved. She did it just as well as he did. So he was really living his dream of spending his days out in nature. And when he died, the historical museum in Telluride did an exhibit of things he had worked with the kids, and it was all dedicated to him. And we got to go out there and see all the 3D printing and projects.
Oh.
And that was to see his name in a museum, and he wasn't around to
Right.
enjoy that. I think it was
Right.
something he was working on with the museum before he died, and then they dedicated it to him.
Oh. Well, do you want to go on now and talk about what happened to Patrick?
Yes. Yeah. So his girlfriend, Marissa's sister, was graduating from high school and back in Boston. And so he drove her. The airport is like an hour and a half in Montrose, Colorado. So Saturday, whenever they would drive out of their small little mountain town, they would do the major shop at like Target and get groceries were a little bit more
Mm.
accessible down there. So we took her to the airport on Saturday and then went to Target and bought the groceries for a couple weeks. He got so many groceries that when we got to his apartment after he died, they were still in the bags. They were he didn't even unload them. But Saturday, so that was Saturday. He got back to the apartment and then Sunday morning they had a group hike planned and at the last minute the person canceled. And so for Patrick, who loved to gather data on the mountains, and he was like avalanche certified, and he was a scientist of the mountains, and he had all these things on his computer. I think there was probably like a little disappointment and then a little glee that he could go do his own thing in the mountains. So he left, I think, with his lunch packed at like 6 o'clock in the morning. And his girlfriend was last in touch with him that Sunday at 3 o'clock, and then
Okay.
no more communication. So I don't know how many hours his girlfriend waited to be in touch with our son and daughter, and then mountain rescue, because it would be very unusual that he would not be back in touch with her.
Right.
We were down at the beach. It was Memorial Day weekend. So Monday morning, that she called us that Patrick hadn't come home. And so it's hard for it to penetrate. Like, oh my God, is he hurt somewhere in the mountains? So
Right.
my son and daughter-in-law came from Philadelphia down to the beach. And then we booked flights to go to Colorado to see if we could help find him. And my daughter was in Connecticut at the time. And yeah, we're just in the terrible fugue state of like, please don't let this be happening. Like it's so, that was just reliable. His girlfriend always said he's the most reliable person in her life. So we're on the way to the airport and I guess it's the coroner called us from Telluride and they had to use helicopter and it was kind of miraculous because we were hearing stories of like how it takes weeks to find. There was a fall.
Yeah.
So we don't know if something up above came and knocked him off or if something he was standing on fell, but he just fell and was killed instantly. So we flew out there and they did a beautiful memorial to him on the mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just took a while. And then we had, his funeral back home where he grew up.
Yeah. Just hard to even wrap your head around, really, even now, right? Even now, 4.5 years later.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's, don't want to think about him. Did he know it was going to happen? Right. But
Yeah.
how that went. And in a strange thing happened in that small town of Telluride where he was known to people. There was a hiker, somebody was giving a lecture somewhere that one of Pat's students' mother was at. And he had come across Pat's outer jacket and hat. And he had never told anybody about it. So that mother went up to this guy who was giving this talk and said, Patrick's girlfriend is, in this town. So anyway, they arranged to meet and she got the jacket, but he couldn't find the hat when it was time to give it to her. But it was interesting that he was up there hiking and so saw exactly where Patrick was standing. It's my husband's dream, like to make it there, but it is like the plateau in the San Juan Mountains. And I don't want to go there. His friends have a beautiful memorial to him in the mountain there, but it's not for your everyday kind of hiker. It's high up.
Yeah.
They put like a time capsule in this memorial for him of all his favorite things. And truly, he was living his dream. Like he was so happy and there's a lot of peace for that for us,
Yeah.
Yeah. Want him back, but.
Yeah. That is true when you feel like they're truly happy. I mean, I think back to Andy and just that week that he died, I will never forget this. I'm riding in the car with him because, he'd had kind of a tough time of it in middle school. He's like he had anxiety, he had ADHD. He was really, really tiny, always the smallest in his class. And so he'd be picked on by other kids. And I still remember him saying to me, the kids in my new school think I'm funny, Mom.
Mm.
And I said, well, you are funny, honey. You are funny. He just felt so good about himself. He'd made such good friends there. It's kind of nice. He went to, it was a smaller now engineering and aviation school, and a little bit of a nerdier school, probably you could say, when you've got a bunch of engineers and pilots going to it, not like super into really strong athletics and all that kind of stuff. I think he just sort of found his people there.
Yes.
So it makes me happy in some ways that he had that, that little bit of.
You just want more of him. Yeah, you just would want.
I mean, he was really happy. He really was. At that school, he just got named on the soccer team. I mean, he was thrilled to be a starter. He'd never been a starter his whole life. Again, that's the beauty of going to a school of like nerdy engineers and pilots is that they're maybe not quite as talented on the soccer field, but he was so excited about it. So I get that sense from Patrick that he was kind of living his best life too, right?
Exactly. That just of as hard as it was to have him across the country from Pennsylvania from us, but his girlfriend told a beautiful story when we were out there to visit him, and we had like an early morning flight, and she said, so we had said goodbye to her the night before, but when she came out, he was crying after we left, and I was like, that was such a gift to me because he was so happy. I was like, I didn't think he was missing us the way we were missing him.
Right.
Like a gift to know that it meant so much to him that we were out there, loving what he loved. He took us to the hot springs and, riding the gondola and all the treasures of small town life with the farmer's market and where people just know your name on the street. And his temperament was just so much more at home than it was in the city. He lived in Philadelphia for a while, and even where we were in the suburbs of Philly, that just the naturalness of being in the mountains out your front door. So the day he died, he just walked out of his apartment for this monster hike that went on, 4 hours.
Yeah.
Which was his greatest pleasure.
Yeah, it's really is quite the opposite of that early career where you said he was, going from the city and just going from city to city,
Yes.
all over the place with his job, never being in one place more than a few days, really. That is far different than the life he ended up with in Colorado.
I know. And it was so brave and so difficult, for my husband be like, how can you step away from that, amazing position? But he trusted himself and had a different vision, and he did all his research. And then just one morning he says, I'm moving to Colorado. He did an online interview for like service industry. And then he just found his legs out there and just moved into, he would run the snowplow. He would bartend. He would do whatever it took to get his life back where he could do the things that he loved.
Yeah. And that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, the radio station in Telluride did a radio program when he died, and some of his friends were there like to testify, and they would do this backcountry skiing where they would put skins on their skis and hike up and then ski down. And the one friend was saying, I was in over my head, and probably a group of 8 of them. And she said, and who stays back with me? And, holds my arm and talks me through, the treacherous stuff they were doing. It was freezing cold. It was dark. And Pat, it's like his just natural personality that I'm sticking with the straggler and the one that needs the extra help. He did training for the crisis hotline. He did the however many hour training, and then he would volunteer every week to take the calls. Right. And his girlfriend, he's the best feminist I know. So
yeah,
my daughter said the world feels diminished by all the things that he knew about and he was prepared to do and that he was doing. And you're just like, it's a lot of work to be at peace with, what could have been, with that future that he had done all the prep for. Try to, you know, channel some of his goodness in our lives, help his light shine through us. That's our only hope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, talk now about your grief journey and what these 4.5 years have been like for you.
Oh boy. I'm I don't know. Interestingly, I'm a clinical social worker and have always had like a huge professional interest in grief and loss, and just a huge always reading, studying about it and working with people
Yeah.
in times of loss. And then it's just a whole different ball game when it's your child.
Yeah. Yeah. You feel like you're not at all ready for it.
Yeah.
You thought maybe you would be, but you're just not.
No. No. It was beautiful initially, everyone circled around. It was summer, which is like my season of, joy. It is like I'm all about the water and the beach and being outside. And so it's real cruel, like that this could be. Both of my parents died in January, and there's something about that. It's January. It's like you're closed in, it's cold, but the weather was so gorgeous. And it was uh Patrick's girlfriend was with us in Pennsylvania. We just kind of cocooned in, and just tried to just be in the present moment of endurance, really.
Yeah.
And then this Joanne Cacciatore, who teaches at University of Arizona, she has a grief care farm out there. And so we went out there for, I don't know if it was a week or 5 days. Yeah, it was beautiful. Kind of a lodge with a psychologist on duty and all these rescue animals that could kind of minister to a broken heart. They had a workshop, and his girlfriend was doing watercolor painting and I was doing the beads. And then my husband they had like a memorial thing you could do out of silver and, put Pat's initials, and that's hanging out there in Arizona. So yeah, I think we've done a ton of reading. We went to that grief week, and I did an online writing course with Mirabai Star.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be weekly, and it would be a Zoom call, and there would be journal prompts, and they kind of were letters to Patrick, and that was just helpful to have the focus, to have all the
Mm-hmm.
everything I wanted to say and still say to him. Now I go to the gym and I go in the sauna, and that's like my time where it's like a dedicated 20 minutes of quiet, but
Yeah.
I do a little gratitude list and then I just talk to him. So that journaling was hugely helpful. I still do that today, and the gratitude helps too. Like that summer he died, we were at a restaurant. It was COVID, and we were at an outdoor restaurant, and there was a mom there. And she had her daughter, and then she had her son who was on the spectrum, was really anxious. He had headphones on, and it was really a stretch for him to be in this outdoor, crowded, noisy, and there was not a table available. And I was watching that mom, and she has this sullen daughter who's like sick of this routine of challenge with her brother. And I thought about, this 29 years with Pat, of like this kid that could mix well with kids and had such a heart for other people,
Mm-hmm.
and had a lot of ease in his life. My parents had 8 grandkids, and my sons were their only boys. They had 6 granddaughters, and then Patrick and Andrew. And it was like he had just this golden life. And I felt so much compassion for this mom, of what it was like for her to try and keep her son calm while they were waiting for her table. And there's been lots of insights like that in the last 4.5 years of just going, we were so lucky.
Yeah.
So lucky to have these kids. And I'm so grateful. I trust Pat's in a really good place now. He's fine. It's really us, his survivors,
Right.
that, his sister and brother both got married the year that he died. And
Wow.
now we have the new baby. And so it's just like getting through these huge life transitions and so desperately wanting him there in his body, but feeling him there. My husband and I did the Camino this past May, and Pat was our trip planner, our logistics guy, and I was just talking to him before we left, so nerve-wracking about the directions and all the logistics of this hike, and it was so smooth. We had 9 days on the trail, never rained, met so many wonderful people, had so much peace, and we just absolutely said, "Thank you, Patrick, for smoothing the way." And we pulled into the end of the Camino on the anniversary, on Pat's 4-year anniversary.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
The most magical city, Santiago de Compostela in Spain, and just this magnificent cathedral, and you get a pilgrim passport. And then we went to the beach in Spain for 4 days after that, and just so incredible. All my anticipation about how that might go, and it was filled with ease, and I 100% attribute it to Patrick's guidance.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And what an amazing way to honor him in
Yeah.
such a difficult time, right? Those anniversaries are so hard.
That's it. It is, we transplanted a tree in his honor, and it was so ridiculous. All of us scrambling. We're using the car. We had to go get, these things at Home Depot. And we just said, well, who's missing here to be the chief engineer of this process?
Right.
I mean, I think he was having a good laugh about it, but it's so difficult of how to mark, you know, his birthday this year. My son got tickets to a museum, and that will feel really good to be with him and remembering Patrick, because it's hard to be around a lot of people. People do such interesting memorial things, and it's hard to know what to do with myself. So just having my husband and myself on the Camino on that anniversary was huge, because the build up to it, the anticipation is just exhausting.
Yeah.
And this day, we didn't have that. We were just outside doing what he loved every day. And
Yeah.
yeah, that was a real gift.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love that idea. You know, you said something before we started recording about grief and how you kind of thought about this journey. And I just want you to share that with the listeners a little bit, you know?
Marcy, I don't even know how to put it, but it does feel like it's really a miracle to survive this, that
Yeah.
so much love, like, the gift of our children and enjoying them. Really, it was a dream that they were great friends. Our children were fabulous allies to each other, and Pat was right in the middle.
Yeah.
So he just had that natural mediator role, that he was rough and tumble with his brother, and they did all the outdoor stuff together. But any big decisions for his sister, her husband knew, her friends knew, she would just book a call with her brother, and they'd be on the phone forever and a day and have just the deepest connection. So it's almost like on a bad day, it's like a blank screen comes over that you can't see your way forward, because there was so much, who's my tech guy? Who's, gets me all my books for book group online, and it just feels impossible.
Yeah.
So it does feel like a miracle that we can plan a trip to the Camino and dedicate that walk to him, that I can connect with other moms who are walking this walk that is its own unique kind of loneliness.
Yeah.
The miracle of it is the delight of my granddaughter, doing things so similar to her Uncle Patrick, and, the peace that he's fine and that he can be of assistance to us in an ongoing way, and to have an ongoing relationship with him, to like send in those angels, send in those helpers, send in, Marcy bravely talking to all the parents navigating this walk, that you can live another day and use, transform the suffering into wisdom,
Uh-huh.
of a lived life, and really do the impossible.
Yeah. That's what I loved when you use the word miracle. I've been doing this a lot of years. I've never heard someone use the word miracle when they talked about their life after a loss and this grief journey. But I thought that's the perfect word to use. It is, because it feels so impossible. I mean, I cannot even begin to say the number of times over the last 7+ years that I have said, I can't do this.
Yeah.
You just feel like you just can't. And I've said it again and again. And I've said many times in the podcast how my friend Michelle always says, you are doing this. And I will say to myself when I say I can't do this, I would say, well, you are doing this. But I've never thought of it as a miracle that I'm doing it.
Yeah.
But that just touches me so that you use that word, because I think it is. I think it is a miracle that we're doing this and we're living each day, because it feels so impossible. And when you use the word miracle now, it sounds like, okay, I mean.
I love that, Marcy. And I think about also, you're the healthcare provider, the mother, and there's interest in the gift of receiving, about being able to say, I know I have taken so much better care of myself, and really consciously, the caretaker, the social worker, and really set different boundaries on that, and given myself so much more grace.
Yeah.
And I actually think the unseen helpers, sent by, I'm in a group of other women who have all lost their kids in the mountains, and two of them never got the bodies back.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like suffering of every dimension, of being out with the search teams for a week, and, every dimension of suffering like you've encountered in your work. And then saying there are the little glimmers of light, of the transformation, to say, how do I use myself and be a steward of my life?
Yeah.
The gift of life, like you said, with the different chapters that, I felt like, so I think I was 32 when my sister died, and I was 59 when Patrick died. And that fall, I was going to be 60 and he was going to be 30. And I just love that. My mother was 30 when she had me. And so there was just this synchronicity of this pattern, and, of just, not understanding the ways of how a perfectly healthy guy who was showing up in life in such beautiful ways, that time was up.
Yeah.
Right. And just having to be peaceful with something that's never going to be peaceful, and still finding a way forward. Yeah. And I just pray like his light shines through me.
Yeah.
We had total privilege of this remarkable son, and we always acknowledged it, how lucky we were. And, being able to persevere really requires a miracle. And I think we have it, because you're doing this that's touching all these lives. And I want to keep talking about Patrick. So I'm so grateful that you gave me this chance.
Well, I so appreciate being able to hear more about him. And like I said, I think this is something that it's going to stick with me forever, this conversation. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that thought. And it's really just changed my outlook a little bit. So thank you. Thank you, Renee.
Oh, absolutely, Marcy. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening. If you found this helpful and would like to support the podcast, please leave a 5-star rating and comment. To help financially, you can type Andy's Mom, one word, to the number 53555. This provides a link to GiveButter, which allows donations through PayPal, Venmo, Apple Pay, or credit cards. GiveButter will provide a receipt of your tax-deductible donation, or you can visit the donation page at andysmom.com/donate. Always Andy's Mom is a registered 501c3 and can receive donations through Thrivent Financial and Benevity. Marcy loves hearing from listeners. Please feel free to reach out to her via email at marcy@andysmom.com or on the Instagram or Facebook Always Andy's Mom accounts. Sign up for the email list to get weekly episode links as well as pictures of Marcy's guests and their children. Together, let's work to inspire hope, one day at a time.